had killed the market for, of course. So now all right, Kay Williams, you're welcome on our you're welcome on our live. All right, thank you for joining us here in Black Hot Fire. For those who are watching us on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, Kay Williams. Don't forget to thank you so much for dropping your early comments and being here. It is good afternoon from Kampala, Uganda, and it's me, Africa Maria, with my colleague, INNOSSETU, broadcasting live. Today is a Tuesday, of course. And okay. I'm still laughing at I'm still laughing at Kay Williams' situation. You've been dropping it in your comments, but yeah, we are glad that we are here. Though you are saying we are late, but yeah, we are here. And of course, it's always a pleasure to meet you and of course read your comments and interact with you as well. Now, Kay Williams says that to answer your questions of hate is what is killing Africa. Right now, it's say AFROPHOBIA is killing African unity, the second part. We had this part that was on Friday. Unfortunately, our electricity cut us short, so we could not continue with this topic, but it was a very interesting topic. So we decided to give it our time today, and of course, discuss with you guys. I know we have, of course, realized the difference that is going on in Africa, and of course, self-hate, like Kay Williams puts it, is also among the major reasons, because there's no way you're going to love somebody else if you hate yourself. There's no way you're going to love your fellow African if you hate who you are. There's no way you're going to work or sacrifice for the betterness of your country or your nation if at all you hate the fact that you belong in that particular place or you belong in that particular group of people. Now, so I really agree with of course, Kay Williams as well. Now, of course, Afrophobia is the prejudice, hostility, discrimination, or racism towards people and cultures of Africa and the African diaspora. Now, prejudice against Africans and people of African descent or African descent has a long history dating back to ancient times, although more prominently during Atlantic slave trade and the colonial period. Now, following the Industrial Revolution in Europe in the 18th and the 19th century, Africans were often portrayed as uncivilized and primitive, with colonial conquest branded civilizing missions, and due to their references for the spoken word and emphasis on oral history and subsequent lack of written histories. Africans were portrayed as having no history at all, despite having a long, complex, and varied history. Now, in the United States, it was manifested in the form of Jim Crow laws and segregated housing, schools, and public facilities. And in South Africa, it was manifested in the form of apartheid system. Now, Jim Crow laws, these were laws that were, of course, these were laws that were put, or these were laws that were brought up in, of course, America, that could bring a difference between the African American and the white Americans who were there at that time, where the African American were segregated. They had a particular place or they had particular communities where they used to live. They were going to their own schools, and they were having their own facilities, and even not having any at all. Now, in South Africa, we saw this kind of Afrophobia manifesting, of course, in the form of the apartheid system. We know what happened in Africa during the apartheid system. Now, apartheid, this was of course, the period, or this was the segregation, or the period of segregation in South Africa between the white minorities and the black majorities. It's simple. There was a segregation. So, unfortunately, the white minorities were extremely advantaged compared to the black majorities, who of course are Africans in South Africa. Now, still the story looks a little bit similar, though quite complex. In South Africa, of course, the same thing, as South Africans, black South Africans were not allowed to attend schools with the white South Africans. They could not go to the same public places. They could not go to the same, they were not also living in the same, housing. So they were segregated just as it was in the United States. Now, in recent years, there has been a rise in Afrophobic hate speech and violence in Europe and the United States. Now, this has been attributed to a number of factors, including the growth of African diaspora in these regions, the increase in refugees and migrants from Africa, and the rise of far-right and populist political parties. Now, we should remember that in October 2017, the United Nations General Assembly held a high-level meeting on combating Afrophobia with a view to adopting a resolution to address this particular issue. All right, let me first read a little bit some comments from people must take the stand and unite in order for things to change. That's a comment from, of course, here we continue.
Talking about Afrophobia, we see that Africa needs to do, of course, to defeat the scourge of Afrophobia and bring unity back to the continent, because the entire African continent, is divided is divided. Africans are divided. Of course, we see that very many people. So we see that when we talk about the black South Africans who have been widely described in the popular media as having and foreigner sentiments, particularly towards African migrants in the country.
Mm.
We see that such sentiments have unfortunately resulted in waves of violent attacks on African migrants, leading to loss of lives and properties. So these actions have been described as Afrophobic. So the black on black violence and new forms of racism in South Africa. We once had a time in South Africa when we saw like uh, the native South Africans, they were segregating these migrants, or South Africans or blacks.
Yeah, those have come to say
Yeah, black on black racism or Afrophobia. So this resulted in two violence and new forms of racism in South Africa. We see that with the content that the vices cannot be divorced from the history of apartheid, which of course fostered a system of fear and mistrust for Africans within South Africa. What's happening over there now?
Trusty, the talk of Mukore Bafuzaki.
Meetings and norms. So, K. William says that what's happening there right about now. So, we see that all these acts which of course foster the system of fear and mistrust of other foreign African nationals through isolating black South Africans from the international community. We see that in the early September of 2019, violent riots erupted in many parts of Johannesburg, and this is South Africa. And the riots and the attacks that ensued were targeted at foreign nationals, mainly from other African countries. Crazy. So, uh, there was, of course, worldwide condemnation of these attacks, which had left in its wake loss of lives and destruction of properties running into several million rands. There were also corresponding attacks on South Africans' establishments by the unidentified individuals in other African countries as a form of retaliation. Responding to those developments, we see that the president of South Africa by then made several sweeping measures to curtail future attacks. Amongst them was the appointment of the special envoy that selected countries to uh, uh, to communicate the steps being taken by the country to ensure the safety of the fellow Africans living within its borders, and that is South Africa. However, of course, nothing that such attacks had attitudes and not new phenomenon of South Africa. South Africa's, of course, appetite on the fellow blacks. We see that in 1998, for instance, a Mozambican immigrant was thrown from the moving train, and two Senegalese were electrocuted in the attempt to escape the violence unleashed on them by a group of South Africans returning from unemployed masses of South Africa, Lale in Pretoria. In 2008, we see the same instance where South Africa was in a global, regional, and national news as local operationalized and intensified xenophobic attacks against the black immigrants. So these attacks recorded the highest rate of deaths. Over 67 people among African migrants died. And similarly, in April 2015, there were attacks on African migrants in Durban and several parts of Johannesburg, leading to many deaths. Aside these vicious attacks, there are other manifestations of xenophobia in, of course, in South Africa. through offensive comments such as Makere, which means, of course, this is a native language in South Africa, which means parasites and foreigner, and other forms, and other forms of hostility towards African migrants in South Africa. So these sentiments, however, do not occur arbitrarily. In fact, they are a result of myths that lead to formation of stereotypes about these migrants. So, however much government departments, parliamentarians, the police, and of course the Lindler Detention Center in South Africa and the law itself have all been reinforcing one-way message since 1990, we see that they were being invaded by illegal immigrants who were a threat to national stability. So we see that such passive sentiments have resulted in the sepulchral the sepulchral guilty of African immigrants for the social vices and even the economic downturn confronting many South Africans. So this is of course in stark contrast to Nelson Mandela's famous declaration during his 1994 inauguration that never and never and never again shall it be that his beautiful land will gain experience the oppression of one by another. So the Rainbow Nation, of course, the newly Democratic Republic of South Africa, was that where the vision of freedom charter seemingly began to be realized through securing political stability, the neutralization of conflicts, and the overall diffusion of tensions in the country was built on the ideas of reconciliation, tolerance of the Ubuntu, which means, of course, humanity, both of Pele people, which means people first, this is South African language, and respect for human rights, inclusive that equity and enriched in 1966 Constitution. However, we still see such things are still going on in South Africa. So the black on black violence and supposedly racism in South Africa, we see that is so much and is so rampant. And South Africa is not, of course, the first. Is not the first country in in Africa that is experiencing such sentiments that are on blacks. I'm still here, just busy with work, so I'm sitting back listening. That's great, Kellyans. That's great. That's great that you're sitting back and listening in. So, uh, so constructing Afrophobia or black on black violence as a new racism in Africa, South Africa. And by the way, there is a way most Africans have that perspective that if someone is not from Africa, leaving aside uh, this black on black that is directly in Africa, where we see South Africans, native South Africans, burning shops, burning malls for the migrant Africans that are in South Africa. Why is it that they are not going in for the Bazungu staff, but they are going in for its black staff, for the black businesses? They are targeting them. They are calling fellow Africans as parasites in South Africa. So, anti-foreigner sentiments are not new in South Africa. We see that prior to the attainment of political freedom from the hegemony of the white minority rule, there were incidences of hostility attitudes towards the foreign other. For instance, general historiography of South Africa, African Jew immigrants has documented a strong anti-immigrant sentiment that was directed at them in the beginning of the 20th century, and also the Indian immigrants who arrived in South Africa from the 1860s onwards. were the targets of the anti-immigrant produce. So, following the country's past democratic election in 1994, South Africa underwent a rapid transformation from a white, autocratic, and largely repressive state to an inclusive democratic one, where a previously banned African National Congress took a reconciliatory and one nation, many cultures approach to celebrate the transition. So the new nation became attractive to many African migrants wanting to escape the social, economic hardships and security concerns in their home countries. So the rise in number of foreign other brought along with a lot of mistrust and fear on the part of South Africans towards African immigrants within their borders. Moreover, the policies of segregation under the apartheid regime enforced the logic that the rights of the groups were directly linked to the people that belonged in particular territory. This was how, of course, apartheid education taught Black South Africans who grew up with that knowledge. Hence, a hostile attitude was developed towards those who were seen to be vending from beyond South Africa's borders. So these foreigners, in the eyes of many citizens, present a competitive risk of scarce socio-economic resources the country has to offer its citizens. So the perception of African migrants as intruders and parasites make many South Africans turn a blind eye to the social economic contribution many African migrants make to the country's development in South Africa. Many of the African migrants, I've seen a lot of Ugandan men. Like I know certain people that have been in South Africa. They are Ugandans. They have been in South Africa for almost their entire life. They make that contribution to the development of South Africa because they are doing businesses in South Africa. So, with the government perceived to be doing nothing about the influx of African foreigners into the country, the local or Black South Africans have resorted to the use of violent attacks to uproot the so-called undesirables from their land. So, commenting on the attacks of African immigrants in South Africa, we see that very many people argue that these stand as the sad reflection of inability of South African people to acknowledge the contribution and inevitability of foreigners in the new South Africa, as much as the indictment of government to lead the way by example. In the wake of the repeated attacks on the African others, we see that the fear or dislike of Africans and their culture, instead of the widely conceived xenophobia or fear and dislike for the foreigners or African foreigners in South Africa, extending this conceptualization of the xenophobia and hence AFROPHOBIA that we are seeing today in South Africa. So, attacks on African immigrants represent a new racism that we are seeing in South Africa and other parts of Africa. It is not South Africa that is it is the only country where we see blacks segregating
their fellow people.
There are even countries that we have here, even in South Africa,
Even
that are
the
near.
US.
Ochtegera, even the US. Ochtegera, blacks as all Africans are segregating their fellow, of course, Africans. So this is a new racism that we are seeing today. We would expect a Muzungu segregating an African, but we see Africans segregating our fellow Africans. So this new racism, of course, practiced by black people on other blacks who belong to the community but are seen as socially and, of course, culturally inferior. This negative attitude confirms the perception that when the oppressed is liberated, they can become oppressors too. Together, making reference to the incidents in, of course, in Alexandra, a township in the Gauteng province in South Africa during the infamous 2008 attacks. We see that while immigrants are defined by their phenotypical appearances, they are seen as those of the dark hue. So they are also racialized group and distinct cultural identities which primarily motivate certain prejudices and discriminations.
You know, the for sure we have had that difference. I'm still here, just a busy day at work, so I'm sitting back listening. Thank you so much, William. We have had that big difference between the darker hue. All right, we have had that difference. You know, just we have had a huge difference. And this is why we are seeing results of a lot of people bleaching themselves, all right, because it has been put out there by those a few ignorant people, thinking that for you to be of a class, you should be light skinned, and someone who is darker should be categorized in a different way entirely. And this is why we see carelessness among women even going ahead and sleeping with other races simply because they want to protect the skin of their children in the eyes of those other African people who compare the skin types and grade the skin types according to what they find fit. Someone will tell you, I'm just sleeping around with this Muzungu or Chinese or whatever man, simply because I want to have that baby who has that skin texture, that my baby can be categorized as someone superior compared to other babies. I want to have a daughter who has that long curly hair, so that my child can be, of course, categorized or with a little bit of superiority in beauty compared to other people. And this has not only, of course, been seen here in Africa, but also in the countries like the United States of America, where we see a lot of mulattoes, a lot. There is an article I read.
What are these mulattoes like in the United States preserving, because they are segregated by the real Bazungos
And also by the black.
I will take it by them. So what are they protecting here?
Because the world today is looking at them mostly. The world focuses on things that are not extremely important, because we have seen extremely dark-skinned people. Having living a better even life. So there is nothing like your skin type, or whether you're light or more darker. Like we said, we have a huge segregation between the people who have the darker hue, of course, being categorized as not on the same hierarchy with this light skinned. And like I was saying, this is not only here in Africa, but also in the United States. Someone, you will understand that if at all there is a choice of women that people should be choosing, you'll find that a lot of mulatto women are being, of course, looked at as more beautiful than the dark-skinned African Americans. They are looked at, I don't know whether it is the insecurities of humankind or what, I don't know, but people just do this. And we are seeing a lot of cases of bleaching now.
I think in South Africa.
We even have a cream that has been introduced as called Morato.
That's propaganda.
Yeah. It is propaganda, but this is something. Let me tell you, this is something that is true. Adores, thank you for coming. I know. Let me say this. I also know there are white people who just want to sleep around with the black people just to have that mixed baby. You're not going to deny this. This is just the truth. Why should you be white and you feel like your child having the skin color like yours is not enough? Why would you want to mix this baby? Because it is the self-hate is not only among the black people, even the white people who hate the fact that they have that skin. And that's why they go ahead. Someone wants, I know, I showed you the other German lady. There is a German lady I know. She has apparently now they're five. She has 5 kids from different 5 African men. Some are from Nigeria. I think some are from Nigeria. I know 2 of them from Nigeria, and then one is from Ghana, and I don't know whether the other one is from Senegal, but he lives in Germany and stuff like that. So for her, she doesn't even care if these men are going to marry her. She doesn't even care if it's going to be a long-term relationship. She has sex with these men purposely to have these children, and she's very proud of it. And each time she of course gets pregnant, she pours and she's like, yeah, I'm bringing another mixed baby, another beautiful one, and stuff like that. So for her, that's her mission. For her, that's her mission.
Dark skin and light skin are both admired in America. As African beach babies look bad.
Dark skin and light skin are both up. It may be from you, and you might be looking this on on your point of view, all right, or on how you look at these things, or maybe for you you don't feel.
I did hear the German lady talk about being jealous of black hero.
So you may be probably maybe you adore you don't really care who is white, who is light, and who is not. But basically you realize that a lot, and the funniest thing, this light and dark feel, or this dark admirance or relationship, comes from the same black people. Because the funniest thing, if you are told to check, I know we have seen a lot of mixed women, or mixed African and white, or African American and white women in America who have dated the races, and they have probably, but you realize that if at all we are to look at the white men, if a white man is dating an African woman, they don't usually go for the light-skinned women. And this, all the light-skinned women know that it is very hard for a white man to date a light-skinned African woman. For whatever reason they do this, I don't really know, right? But we have had people who should be really understanding the skin type and understanding the black or the Africanism in a person more, not understanding this. And this is why I talk, because no matter what people say, always women will say, I love to do what I do because I love it. I'm bleaching myself because I want to. They bleach themselves because they have one thing, what K. Williams said, self-hate. 2, they bleach themselves because they know the society, they want to probably attract the society. If you go through different social media platforms like Facebook, the moment you open your Facebook page, if I open my Facebook page now, you are going to realize that the first advertisement that is going to come on my pop-up on my Facebook page, and I don't follow these things, but because they know my location where I'm at, and that is Africa, you're going to realize that the first ad that is going to appear is going to be a bleaching ad. You always check my Facebook, you see that. Each time they're talking about different creams, I don't know how they call them, soaps, whatever. The moment you open your Facebook page, like bam, that's the ad you're gonna see. I'm trying to load my Facebook page so that I can show you what I'm talking about. I don't usually subscribe to these things, but I know the moment I open, these are the things I see with extremely light-skinned African women who have bleached, And they are talking about the beauty of bleaching and all that, of course, goes on. Africans surprise the world not being black and proud. They do it because American or US black women are not attracted to white man. Very rare. The bleach women look gross. I think it's so waiting. Bleach, yeah, we always discuss about the things with INNOSSETU here. Um, you bleach when your skin still has that that youthfulness and all that. And all that, and then funniest thing, when you start growing old, shit starts going. I think at that time your skin cannot contain the chemicals, the hydroquinone, and those other bleaching chemicals. That at the end we realize that these people who bleach when they are young look a little bit weird, you know. They look weird all the time. So like you said, that bleached people look gross. There are a lot of people who are doing this for the sake of, I don't know, maybe they think they're going to be attractive and all that. But we have seen segregation. We have seen people segregate others. We have seen, for example, in South Africa, there is, I don't know how it is now as of 2024, but for a very long time, South Africans could not employ anyone to work on a TV as a television presenter when you're darker, when you have a darker hue. They needed a light-skinned person or a morato. So if you were someone who was going into college or university to study any branch of journalism or whatever, you were supposed either to bleach your skin to fit the requirements of you being employed on these, televisions. For if you wanted to be a representative, like someone who's going to be like a public relation, or if you're going to be at the front page of anything, you needed, the first requirement before anything was for you to be light. Right now, this for bleaching, like a lot of women decided to bleach their skin, and not only in of course South Africa. We've also seen very many African countries where like your skin color represents everything, where they feel like if you're light skin, even if you're damp, even if you cannot manage something. We have seen very many bogus people working on television. They even don't have the brain to, talk about shit, but they will be around there simply because they are light skinned. And this still same issue has gone on in different, places, where for you to be sure that you have a job, you should at least brighten your skin, you know which is a little bit crazy. Mhm.
So she said that others say that they look weird whenever they do it. It causes great deal with health issues too. There are various videos with them scrapping their melanin off.
With the jig and with those other things.
He also goes further and says he had that light skin that was required in Jamaica too.
You can see. So that is real. That is real, and a lot of people are looking at that as something very extremely, important. Because at times I think people usually forget. As I'm trying so very hard to make sure that I get this job or start working, I'm preparing. for the future, or I'm preparing myself to have a better life now. If this job is here to destroy that thing that I'm preparing myself for, that means there is no use. There is no use. But unfortunately, maybe people don't look far beyond their nose. We see people having some weird appearances. Someone grows old and the skin turns to something like a dried wound, some stuff like that, because their skin or their melanin was scratched off and they have nothing to protect their skin anymore. You know. But yeah, so we're sharing it for bleaching, yeah.
So if you look at
No, imagine
incorporated,
using bleaching cream for over. You can imagine. Now she has been using that for over 20 years.
20 years over, she's 22. 20 years over, she's 22. Look at the skin. Hey, cream for over 20 years.
Look at her. The body is like a wound.
So
So you can imagine how crazy it is. Those are the things that are happening. There is always, like I said, you will use that cream or whatever it is that you're using for a very short time, and time will come when there is no cream that can heal that kind of weird, appearance. And that's why people usually see, there is a certain, most people really, I don't know, but I think a lot of people do a lot of things, forgetting that they are growing, because all of us were not born the way we are. We were babies before.
they have videos on YouTube of them getting into a tub of chemicals and scrapping the melanin off.
So you can see that. You can imagine that. When I have bleaching, I will high pigmentation, man. I choose. There is a lot, and seriously, sincerely speaking, there are some weird things. I know I'm maybe a woman, and I shouldn't be saying some stuff, but it is very hard to find someone bleaching with a fresh skin scent. They usually have that weird smell. I don't know why, but I guess maybe their body can't fight or whatever it is that makes them stink or smell bad. most people who bleach have a very, very weird smell. And this is the fact. And a lot of people don't really know. I don't think whether this bleaching thing can no, 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 yeah, man. I don't wait for it. It's paid off. One day. Then editing. The crazy thing is instead of Chinese
honestly, I
holidays,
have noticed that other Americans, most of the world breaches. True. Is it true?
other than Americans, most of the world, even Americans do bleach. The truth. I know.
Some may thought the Bazookas don't breach because it is their skin.
And the Baba black.
The black American.
Even the Arabs. What a bube you do. Oh!
However, I normally see black Arabs.
Even a lot of people, even the Indians who are hard on their skin, even there are a lot of people want to be more white. I don't even find the person that you see as the white also bleaching because they want to appear more. I don't know whether they want to look like the ones in Antarctica. I don't know. I don't know who is the whitest. Who are the people who have the whitest face? I don't know.
The crazy thing is inside the Chinese calling it bleaching, they call it like
lightening, and the Chinese also do that.
I was listening to African panel,
Mhm.
and the man said that he wanted the breaches because they stink. Is what not fine.
Exactly like I was saying. Exactly like I was saying. And sit with them in a public transport, and then you will see how these people stink. And before, after, way after. I'm really crazy. I don't know, but those people, I don't know why that happens. Maybe after scrubbing their skin like this, maybe the skin is infected or stuff, but they usually have that weird, smell. And even people who make their hair all the time. Huh? And even some people are crazy. People are crazy, and people are serious about this. At times they're not going to on our day. Okay. So this issue of people segregating others according to their skin in Africa within the same community or within the people of the same heritage, it is a little bit weird and funny because they have the other mindset that for you to be light skinned, you are superior and all that. So it is true, Africa has experienced the of course phenotypical. The Africans have been defined by their phenotypical appearances. You know, right?
And of course, this of course Afrophobia, like you say, it is attributed to a lot of things.
Mm,
Just like you have been talking about how
mm,
different cues have also caused uh, people to separate or to
mm,
segregate, or as like to look at this as a new form of racism in Africa
mm,
and outside Africa
mm,
amongst black people.
mm,
So we see that this is seen as a new danger to the society,
mm,
a threat and of course invader intent on of course on upside up speaking,
mm,
usurping the hard-won materialities which the local earned with sweat and blood.
mm.
Similarly, we see that no one is, of course, attacking world German, British, or French foreigners in South Africa. No one is attacking them.
Mm,
Okitegeera,
mm,
wabula history of South Africa, it has made blacks not to like other people. Okitegeera, who are black descent that come to what? To South Africa.
First
They
of
are
all, they are
looking.
afraid. They
Mm,
fear the other. They
mm,
fear the German, the French,
mm,
and the British people
and many of
there.
them that there.
Mm.
Mm,
They believe they are already inferior. For you, we have given up
mm,
because we were meant to be, I
mm,
guess.
mm.
And now they know, since there is something. I don't know that it was Deep Jabba or who said, I don't know. But last some time back was trying to say, I think the cowards
And
attack.
many foreigners in South Africa, they normally in that place that is called Camp Bay in South Africa. Many Germans, British, and other French foreigners in South Africa. But Africans, we see blacks not attacking these people. Why is it that they're attacking their own black people?
Mm,
Yeah, just because they are calling them parasites in South Africa. So this is unthinkable. This racialization makes it safe to victimize black people from the African continent in our everyday exchanges.
mm,
So racism, in the view of of course in a wider view, is of course a global system of control and oppressive power relation
mm,
affecting all areas of people's activities, including economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, and religion, sex, and war. And of
mm,
course, it must be said that there is a clear difficulty and confusion in conceptualizing racism due in part to the often bloodlines between racism and the perpetrated patriotism or nationalism.
mm,
To therefore succeed in framing xenophobia as racism, the
mm,
passive question of what constitutes racism needs to be properly dealt with.
mm,
Subsequently, we return to the definition found in the earlier years
mm,
during the anti-racism.
mm,
Okitegeera
mm,
nti when we look at racism, or when we look at this new racism in South Africa, where we see blacks attacking, when we see like we yet to see schools to be separated, like foreigners must study in this. If I told you a black migrant in South Africa or any other part of Africa,
mm,
you go into separate schools,
mm,
you get different social services. We
mm.
get to see this because it's what is bleeding now, of course, in most
But
parts
but
of
they are
Africa.
they are foreigners. Let me say there are people who come from other parts of Africa and they decide to create their own
Mm,
society within this environment. We have seen this like in Uganda. We have a lot of refugees. We have a lot of immigrants in Uganda coming from different places. But when they come, these people usually tend to construct their own schools, to have their own, meeting points and all that. Ate munsi etali yaabwe beepamira.
So there is no way we can have unity in Africa if at all we still have such stereotypes among Africans, even Africans in diaspora. And this also goes beyond the Africans that are in diaspora. Many Africans recognize these people as whites. They don't give them that room, collaborate with these people, which is dangerous. We can't see unity if at all we still have the same things going on. Jibijaba says that hello Maria and Setu. Jibijaba, we are doing good.
Ada says that what about if they are bleached very light? Will they not love their dark children? The same question I keep asking myself. And she also goes ahead and says whites age faster and will have more melanin. It would cause less sun cancer. Yet melanin positive people are scrapping away their protection. They don't know, they are very ignorant about this.
So a lot is going on. Jibijaba, actually Jibijaba, I know you're watching. You can tell me like how is of course Afrophobia practiced in USA among Africans, African Americans. Ado says that about a week ago, saw though a bleached lady was on the Azorian Empire panel. Mike TV asked the lady, did she use a bad foundation or did she breach? The African women were so infuriated. That is from Ados. I don't think it's necessary. I wanted to kick him off the so so talking about of course Afrophobia and how it has been seen how it has been practiced, we see that Jibigaba says that personally I haven't had many experiences with African immigrants, so I'm unable to say positive or negative things. If my location was more diverse, I could judge. I forgot to say hello to Maria and say to you do have a great channel. See, it's my other people.
Okay. Mercy. I just.
So I'm talking about speaking the African, of course, CEO the CEO forum in Kigali, Rwanda, with on May 17th. This year, Africa's richest person, the Nigerian billionaire Aliko Dangote, complained that he faces far more obstacles traveling around Africa than Europeans ever do. He said that I have to apply for 35 different visas on my passport to travel freely across Africa. So Dangote said, I can assure you that Patrick, and this is the CEO of Total Energies, doesn't need 35 visas on the French passport, which means so to me, why would we like Africans? Africa is made up of 52 countries. Why would we be traveling within Africa with different visas indeed? Mm. So Dangote further said that he had to apply for over 35 visas to transport to be actually to travel across Africa. And um and sorry, and of course the 35 visas on the French passport, which means that freer movement than the myself in Africa. Like it is easier to move like to other continents, like within Africa. Why would we be having restricted movement within African region by our same Africans? So we see that even for the upper wealthy businessmen with the near unlimited means like Dangote, the continent is fragmented and discriminatory visa regime is clearly a considerable inconvenience. For millions of African migrants, however, it is a major obstacle to safety, stability, and success and prosperity. Indeed, stringent visa regimes discriminating against Africans are not only, of course, inconveniencing industrialists and harming the continent's economic development, but also destroying migrant lives and dreams and hindering efforts to achieve true African identity. So, today, while most of course Westerners are free to roam the continent and exploit its socio-economic potential with ease, Africans who want to move for whatever reason are swimming against the current. So, so this was not, of course, always the case. In the 1990s, we see that situations used not to be the same, of course, on African continent. People used to move. I remember in Uganda it was easy. I'm sorry, Tiri. I don't say that I'm sorry, Italy. Whether disable muted. I don't know. Chief Jabba, am I loud? Am I loud now? Chief Jabba. Chief Jabba, just like, can you hear me now? All right. All right. Thank you. So, like I was saying that if at all you are good now, that's great. So, uchimanya whether I've been whether I'm muted. I've been so like very when I was growing up, actually as a child, I used to see a lot of even up to now. I used to see a lot of Congolese young men selling selling loud and clear. That is from Jibjaba. When I was growing up as a child, even up to now, I normally see Congolese men and women selling out jewelry. In Uganda, we don't see very many Ugandans selling out jewelry, moving place, hawking jewelry in small terms, like in simple terms. We don't see Congolese, we don't see Ugandans hawking jewelry in Uganda. But we normally see Congolese, and these people have made this business in Uganda. It is a successful one in Uganda. A lot of Ugandan people, when you look at most Ugandan people, the jewelry they have, they refer it to the Congolese that are here that are selling jewelry. So if at all we can now in Africa, we can have restricted movement. Dangote is a rich man who of course complained and of course claimed he has money to travel anywhere he wants. But why is it that we see that within Africa that we still have that territorial restriction? It is not very easy for you to go to Kenya, for you to go to Tanzania, for you to go to Mozambique, for you to go to South Africa. Rather, it is very easy for someone to move from Uganda to go to of course, or a continent that is not an African continent, which is something that sounds to be awkward to me, something which doesn't add up well. Prior to 1990s, it was very easy for Africans to move African continent freely the way they want. However much, Africa had been demarcated by that time, but people could have that peaceful movement within Africa without too many restrictions that we see today. For you to process a visa, it is expensive. Whether you're going anywhere, whether you're going where or where. For me, before I thought when you have a passport, you're good to go anywhere you want.
In Africa or in the
Eh?
In Africa.
In Africa, like if at all you have a passport, I was fighting so hard to get a passport so that I could move wherever you want.
It should be like that.
But for you to get a passport, it is expensive. You have to get a passport. At the same time, that passport has to be accompanied by a visa, which is also totally expensive. And most of the time, the people that we see moving across Africa, the people I've had moving, these are industrialists, these are entrepreneurs, these are business people that are moving across Africa. But they have not been given that chance to trek the continent, to explore. We once had a Ugandan businessman who died in 2019, I think. This guy had a lot of money. He's a Muslim guy. BMK.
Yeah, because BMK died.
Yeah, that guy had businesses in Rwanda. The guy had businesses in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya. He had almost most of the African countries. The guy had businesses there. He's a Ugandan guy. He used to sleep in Uganda. He has
to move.
Hey, but he used to move because of business across. Jibby Jabba says that that is Jibby Jabba from YouTube says that it is so you cannot connect and create lasting bonds or a united infrastructure. Or a united infrastructure. It is very hard for you to connect and create a lasting bond or united infrastructure. This is true Jibby Jabba. But like why is it that like why is it that like Africans we don't learn from the past, like we don't have like we have not learned a lot from the past. Why would we uh like it is very easy for you to import uh goods from China than taking goods to Southern Sudan from Uganda, like taking goods to Kenya. Okitegera? If at all you're importing something from China, they will even give you days, like within 2 weeks, you're going to be having that thing after shipping or stuff or what. It is very easy. But for you importing 2 tons of maize from Kenya, it may take months. It may spend months at the border. You have to clear a lot of things at the border.
And the so-called investors are always given privileges. And by the way, speaking of that, there is like 3 days ago I watched a video of Nabaja which
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister.
Uganda.
You know that she was attacking the Chinese and how they are doing a disservice
to the Ugandans
and the government. But later on, I came to realize that whenever you come as an investor in most of the African countries, there is a privilege that you're given. You import your things for free. They are duty free. They don't remove taxes. Investors don't pay taxes. This is why we have a lot of people importing a lot of things that can still be imported by other Africans. A lot of things that can still be imported by other Africans. And for them, they're not paying taxes because as they're importing these things, they claim that this is for, of course, building your nation. So they say whoever is planning to build the nation, we are not going to ask you for taxes if at all you are bringing things. And these people bring these materials, but later they sell. This is why we have seen like that road that the Chinese have been constructing. Every month materials are brought from China, but the road took how many years? They were just doing business. They were selling these things. They opened up warehouses and all that, and they were selling these things. All in the name of it. So, but if it was an African person to do this, even if you are doing something for free, nobody cares. Nobody really cares. No one is going to say, we are going to give you a helping hand. After all, you are doing for our nation.
So, it is the something that I was going like Africans, not only like an average African, but all like I said, let me say Africans from Africa and how we are taking things. Why is that there is that automatic opportunity for someone for non-Africans like than the real Africans. We have been talking about like what's going on in South Africa. We used to watch how South Africans, how immigrant South Africans were being treated. How immigrant South Africans were who are being mistreated and segregated in South Africa. But there is a place I talked about in South Africa that is called Camp Bay, where almost most foreigners and other businesses of foreigners, because most of the businesses that are in South Africa, they are for foreigners, but they are not attacked. But the like businesses for Ugandans that are in South Africa, the Nigerians that are in South Africa, they are attacked.
Me neither, but he's going in right now. Mocha get out of dominating it. Sajja batumba webatya welcome. It is you know, let me say, like just other countries usually give their citizens, or other nations usually give their people, let me call them people, the first priority, which is not seen within the Africans. All right, within the Africans, we've seen someone in Africa is struggling to buy land, if at all you want to expand, and it becomes so hard for you than even a mzungu. A white person comes, they achieve land. There, it is not about them having money to buy these lands, but at times you even find that someone is trying to give them, of course, the land at quite a cheaper price because they believe this person is going to develop the place. Someone says, we have a mzungu. We have not had, this kind of maram. So this Muzungu definitely is not going to ride his expensive cars on Maram. He will definitely at least try to give us tarmac. So it is important. And usually when they are going to sell this land, because you know in Africa, when you're buying land, your neighbors from both sides should agree to this. They're always there to agree. They're always there as witnesses, and they put their signatories on the documents to show that we have been here and we have agreed that we want so and so to be next our neighbor, or to join our community. It is not a matter of just waking up and having land. So you will realize that if someone actually, if a Mzungu wants land, you see a lot of people come with different stories. Now you can imagine a Mzungu is coming in your area. These people, they are going to develop your area and all that story. But we've seen a lot of Bazungu living in places where there is maram, and they have not even put tarmac there. So there is that myth that people usually have. We have seen also a lot of Black people doing great things. All right, we have seen very many of them doing a lot of great things. We have seen, let me say here in Uganda, we've seen a Ugandan man deciding to, of course, he has constructed a football pitch. He invested in a football pitch. We have not seen investors doing that. He has invested in different big malls and is one of the people who are making the cities look beautiful. He's a Ugandan born. So, but usually people feel like, nah, it is somebody else who's going to do this for us. What is it? Why are the South Africans thinking that it is okay for you to chase these other people from your land and not realizing that they have probably a big impact? Because each time these people, even first of all, they even improve the economy. And I guess this is why even South Africa has a fast growing economy. Because it has people coming from different places of in Africa. And you have people, they don't come with their food. They are buying food from your stores. They don't come with their houses. They are renting. They don't come with their cars. They buy your cars. They do all that. and which of course even other native or other Black South Africans cannot even do, because they are living quite I don't want to use some words that may not sound good, but you know that most of them are living in not in a very unpleasant kind of way, right? So it is always okay for Africans to live with each other than hating each other. But we are saying this, I know a lot, by the way. Uh, Even if, no matter how good a place is, still you find people having that small material of hate towards another. Why should you feel like it is okay for you to cheat your fellow Africans? No, because this person, okay, the person looks like me. She's an African, but she does not speak like she's a person from my country. And when they come to buy something, you have to double the price, because you know they are ignorant about the currency, they are ignorant about the language, they are ignorant about everything. Instead of you welcoming these people humbly, appreciating and showing them the love, you want to cheat, you want to double the money, and then you meet a Mzungu, you even want to give a Mzungu things for free. It is very funny. Oh, you're giving a Mzungu stuff for free. Oh, I don't know what it is about that. I don't know why people behave like that.
Uh, um, there is something I used to see. I grew up seeing like Bazun, more like some few Bazun who's giving bursaries to our village people.
Mm,
Like Nayenga,
mm,
like I don't know what was behind. I don't know whether this was one who's bargaining with those things that are handcrafted stuff. Do they like them so much?
yeah, I think.
Hmm.
Mm.
Ng'okuba just nkuba ekifaananyi okuwa pasa. You put it in an envelope, a big envelope, then you get sponsored.
Mm.
Like when I was growing up, I looked for a connectivity between sponsorship and that. Maybe there was
I told
something.
you that.
Maybe there was something bigger, something that was bigger. That wasn't like I wasn't looking like my eyes couldn't see by that time. Maybe there was something bigger than that. Shege. But I think the most uh, causes of afrophobia that like like the causes of afrophobia they can be linked to a lot of things.
Mm.
For a lot of things. Shege. We talked about the of course the color differences or the hues at the first point of this discussion at the first uh, point of this show. We talked about the color differences.
Mm.
Together.
Mm.
Secondly, I don't think culture is something that can be put among the things that are causing Afrophobia among Africans, because African culture is almost the same.
Mm. But it is diverse,
It is just diverse,
but
but
it has a lot of.
it has a lot of similarities. So there is no reason for someone. So you can't convince me that um, that South Africans, native South Africans, were banning immigrant or migrant business, migrant or migrant people's businesses in South Africa because of cultural differences.
Mm.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Mm.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Together.
Mm.
Besides, very many black South Africans in South Africa swimming into poverty. last time you were here and you said that most of the South Africans, they are not educated. So, and it is not very easy either for someone to travel from future. Because most of them might not, they don't have passports. They are not educated. Now he travels to learn to do what? Where to get that money? Because they are not educated, they are not employed, not because they are not, then yeah, the jobs are not there, jobs might not be there in South Africa. By the way, like we are looking at South Africa because it is actually the country that of course the best example. But even here in East Africa, we have countries that do such. Whenever they look at you, that is a Ugandan, they don't cooperate with you. Or check it, they don't cooperate with you. South Africa earlier looked at as a country that welcomes everyone, besides everything, because people used to run for South Africa for some good time. Yeah, not only Nigerians. You may find almost all African countries have people in South Africa.
And by the way, listen, at that time when South Africa was opened, you know that there are no many schools for South Africans. I think most people went there.
By the way, I started with a girl. I started with a girl in high school. I started with a girl. She was a South African. But the girl used to tell us like South Africa
education system here will collapse. Secondly, at that time there was a time when they didn't have schools. Abantu bazimbi amasomero ba Uganda, ba Nigeria, but
we started with this girl when I was in high school. She was called Indagire something. Federal South Africa. South Africa. Ndagire just because they be our, but she was South African. Reality. She was South African. Like we used to, she used to tell us stuff. They don't have passports. Most of them, they don't even know English. They speak the native language. South Africa. Again, I used to follow her on Facebook. She's now a nurse. She's now a big nurse in South Africa. Nenga twali tuwakana. Yani muyaye nga yewola nga gaba bagenda kusindika sente nenga tuwakana. Then we told her that never like she used to post when she was in South Africa, stuff, South Africa. Nenga tuwakana. We used to doubt about her. I know. She was ever called in the bit of a trailer. I remember. I don't know, but she's in South Africa now. All Bonani Baganda. But most South Africans, they don't know English. They speak native language. Mpozi olulimi balemeddwa olwogera mu nnyumba naye abatanire balwogera mu nnyumba pa ne bwalifulumya ekigambo gy'oluzungu otegeereramu bwe notama So like I was saying that it is not like you can't convince me. Take care, you too. What's Maria making to eat? I hear the cutting board chop chop chop.
Bye, where are you going at? I was cutting some stuff. Anyway. Some veggies. Some veggies. But anyway. Um we've had usually we have had this kind of behavior, and that I don't want to call it racism, but the hate among ourselves crossing different borders. We have seen this economically in economical aspects, we've seen this in the political aspect, we've seen this in all spheres uh, here in Africa. I don't know why or what makes it so hard. I mosquito. I don't know why what makes it so hard for Africans to just love each other. Um, all right. Recently, it is not that we are so weak or we cannot support each other, but we are always against each other in most of the cases, whether on an individual basis or on an international basis. I will start with the individual basis, really. Um, at times, Africans make it very hard for you to work with your fellow Africans. We've seen a lot of Africans. It is not only. I don't know whether this is the human nature. I don't know whether this is the human nature. I don't know whether, but we have seen this hate towards each other even on an individual level, where someone feels like, all right, maybe a Ugandan and maybe he is a Tanzanian, so we cannot be close. Why is he even sitting close to me? And why is he even talking like that? Well, a lot of crazy stuff. Huh? I don't know that this is driven by jealousy or greed or whatever it is. But we have experienced this all over in the social life, at work, home, and other environments where we have people living with different people. It might be even in the same country, but when people are speaking different languages, and it becomes a problem. You will go on social media, you will find other people talking about others, like they do this. We have people who have bad behaviors in all tribes or in all tribes. It has got nothing to do with a particular tribe. We have got good people everywhere, we have got bad people everywhere, and this is something that actually people do not really. So, and then from there, let's look at the. Let's look at situations. For example, let's look at a country like Burkina Faso, where we saw Ibrahim Traore, of course, becoming a president after coup. But Ibrahim Traore seeked support from countries like Russia, countries outside Africa. And the little thing we saw him do with the Africans was to join a little umbrella with some other countries that had broken away from the umbrella that was in West Africa at that time. So, why was it hard for Ibrahim Traore to, of course, work together with the African leaders to bring peace in Burkina Faso? When Ibrahim Traore, of course, succeeded, we saw various countries that were against him. We saw various African countries which did not congratulate his, success. The various countries which did not congratulate him. A lot of countries which were up against him. Uh-huh. Leaving that, we have a lot of African countries that are producers of Africans' day-to-day things, like things we can use like palm oil. Why should we see Africans rather, of course, importing palm oils from Asia? Why do we see them importing red oil from other African countries? We have countries like Nigeria, we have a lot of countries in the western part that produce palm or the red oil. We also have like Tanzania in East Africa and Congo that produce this type of oil. But why do we have to import some other things that are manufactured outside Africa? Yet we have countries in Africa that manufacture or produce the same thing. I'm going to give you an example of South Africa. South Africa, of course, the whites in South Africa run the South African economy. They control the trade, they control the export and the import of South Africa, majorly. And you realize that most of the exports that come from South Africa are distributed all over Africa before even they are, of course, taken outside. Because most of the things they do are, of course, GMOs. Now, South Africa recently, when we had a war between Ukraine and Russia, we realized that South Africa, of course, they ran out of food. That means, leaving the fact that we have a lot of African countries that are producing food that is edible by the South African rather decides to make business partnership with the Ukraine, the rice and the wheat from Ukraine. Why would you choose? Yet we have other African countries that can produce, maybe that can produce rice. Why are you making businesses with those other? Because usually how this is how it goes. When these people promise you a business deal, they are coming in for a greater thing. And probably they're going to say, we're going to be importing like 50 tons of rice to South Africa, but in exchange of your diamonds. So you're gonna give us access to your diamonds, and we're gonna be supplying you with this because it's not usually about hard cash when it comes to these people offering. We have seen the same likes of Chinese. We have got African countries that are producing construction materials. Why should you rather prefer to allow Chinese to import construction materials to Africa? Why don't you make deals? We have got Africans who have professions. They're engineers, they're engineers, we have got doctors, we have got professionals who can do this. Why should you import professionals from outside to pay them even more expensively than the professions you would have got from Africa? We fail to support, we are so selfish, we hate to see other Africans succeed. We hate to see that. It's crazy. Oof, it's very hard today. Oof. I think it's gonna rain at night. So whenever it's gonna rain, it brings that weird temperature. Wanaewa kaluba mukwano kyabadde akaabira. Oops. Sorry. Let's go with this. So we have really a lot of issues that are actually going on. We should be, before even we think about doing business with before even we think about doing business with any other country outside Africa, we should think about doing business with the Africans, you know. But we have not seen a lot of African countries giving chances to their fellow Africans. You heard that story that, of course, INNOSSETU was trying to explain about Dangote, one of the richest guys in Nigeria, and could be also still be among the richest people in Africa, complaining that it is hard for him to move throughout Africa without paying a lot of money. Why? Why should you pay a lot of money for you to move to another African country? So why should you pay too much tax? And this is why probably even a lot of people don't want to do business, because you have to pay a lot of money. Someone says, now, if I'm going to export, if I'm going to probably like Kenya to buy some stuff, and I know they are going to, it's going to cost a lot than getting something from China, then somebody says, I rather prefer getting it from China where it's not going to cost a lot. Why should it cost you a lot to buy something from another African country than you buying something from a different country outside the continent? Because we do not wish well for others. There is too much greed. It may be called a competition, but it is not a health competition. It's not a health competition, because at the end of the day, Africa is going through what it is going through because we are lacking that love. We are lacking that unified relationship that unites us as one. Somebody decides to come in their other countries rather than respecting the people the person has found. You want to be a criminal. You think it is easier for you to hold a gun and start shooting other Africans because you believe they don't come from your country. You think it is easy for you to hold a gun and steal and rob a bank because you know tomorrow you're going back to your country and people will think you have clean money and they'll be excited about it simply because it is not your home. So it is okay for you to do that. And this is the issue we have. But, well, that is it. It is caused by us lacking that love that unifies us as Africans. So,
bano baabayingidde ennyo.
Are you sure? Nze siraabana bwe bakola omuyambi byagamba bakola ssaawa munaana buli omu nga tuvuma ng'okakasa obalabako gwe
bakozi bakola singa tebakola singa basasula
nandooza beeyagala nga babush people.
toyogera soka okuba obulango bwekomasho
Habwaki?
you know, also get the causes. So we see that AFROPHOBIA, of course, which is the hate or hatred towards African people or people of African descent, African descent or descendants, whatever. We see that a lot of factors such as non-implementation of policies addressing xenophobia, because xenophobia leads into Afrophobia. Look at South Africa's situation. So the media portrayal that perpetuates stereotypes and negative images, lack of citizenship, education, civic and political culture, racial stereotyping and racist violence, practices that perpetuate social and economic inequalities, racial profiling, and of course criminal justice systems is also another another factor that of course that can be linked to
omuntu watukyukani agenda okukiwanvu yakiraba epaka ey'omwoki paka ebisembera akiteekako nekipuleyinga n'agenda gy'alaga.
Ekizibu naawe tewali we yakulagira luuti yonzise wanzise watabuka ekiri ebisinga ensonga lwaki saagala kube nga twogera Oluganda mu videos osobola okulifaalinga omuntu kuno nakusanga ngaoyogera bintu bya kisiru tebirina mamu olifaalinga omuntu wano okujja okukulaba
Hi, kid.
You guys eating the popcorns?
No. No, we are not.
You see Kenya's on fire?
Yeah, we saw that video.
You guys see Kenya's on fire because the IMF, Africans are waking up. They know the cats with the small hats run this planet, and they're running Kenya into the ground. And finally, the youth are waking up. Isn't it funny? They're supposed to be able to peaceably assemble when you live in a democracy, but you don't live in a democracy. That's the scam. And now the scam is coming to light. They're peaceful. The ones who's being violent are the police, shooting tear gas and shit at the kids. So the scam of living in democracy, that's being ripped off, that nonsense shit. They gave Africans this fake democracy shit that you do not live in. There's not one democracy on the African continent. Not one. Oh, well, yeah, maybe one. Ibram Touré and them over in Burkina Faso who took power and created a real damn democracy. But no other place in Africa do you got a democracy. The scam is being lifted. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. So how you guys doing today? You guys in there went up? Have you guys in there? You guys in there went up yesterday?
Yeah, our electricity.
Oh, electricity, yeah. So welcome to Museveni. That's why the shit that ain't been done in Africa.
It was raining so hard.
Because it rains, you should have power, Maria. It rains everywhere. I mean, your power should be cut off. That's the problem with African so good dirty puppets. Not created infrastructure for African people. But we'll see what happens in Kenya. We'll see what happens. Locking up the kids, locking them up, tear gassing them. But Kenya, you're on the verge of a revolution. See, the children are not as dumb as their parents and their grandparents. The morons who wanted to suck white daddy's dick. Kids don't want to suck white daddy's dick no more. They don't want this dick in. They don't want the dick in the mouth no more. Saying, nah, white daddy, we don't want the popcorn. What you guys talking about anyway? What you guys talking about?
We are talking about Afrophobia.
About who?
In the community. The hate among Africans.
Oh yeah, but no, it's not as bad. I said, you guys start putting yourself back on TikTok. Well, you guys stop taking yourself on TikTok. That's why we got the other phone. I guess to make you guys put yourself on TikTok. There's the video circulating now. The youth are not going for that. The youth, I don't know what part. He might be Ghanaian and Nigerian. About I'm not Nigerian. I'm not Ghanaian. I'm not Zambian. I'm not Zimbabwean. I don't identify with none of that shit. He said. I'm African. I don't identify with none of that shit. I reject all these borders made in Berlin. How about the conference? I reject all these borders. I should have sent you that video. I should have sent it. That's why you guys complain. Let me see that video. You guys can play. Let me see that video real quick. I reject all these borders. I reject all of it. Hell yeah, reject all of it, damn it. I reject all these borders. Let me send this to Maria real quick. Let's set the man, Maria. Let's see here. Let's set your. There's your avatar. Okay, there's your avatar right there. Okay, Maria, I sent you the video. So you can't say that all Africans are still causing division. A lot are, but a lot are also waking up. That's what you see happening in Kenya. They're not based on tribal things right now they're doing in Kenya. They're based on just being Africans and being mistreated. So it's a slow wake up. But that tribal shit and all that division was caused by most of the Europeans. Divide and conquer. The Africans, sadly enough, accepted that shit and should have never have. So it's been a long climb upwards. So, I'm glad that they know it's the IMF. They work for white people in Kenya. They actually got it right this time. Not no tribal shit. They try to say it's not the globalists, small hats. Run it. Trying to recolonize Africa. That's why I already told you that they were going to tamper in the South African election. And that's what they did. They tampered in that shit. Because they took the small hats to court. Which no nigger is supposed to ever do. We think run South Africa, the small hats, the Oppenheimers, the De Beers. So they tampered with those elections. You got a white man. Yeah, that's it. That's it, Maria. You gotta turn your sound up.
Okay, playing like the rooms.
You guys don't have no sound on your video.
Yeah.
And it is ours to do so. No, but as long as we are concerned, Africa is one. I am not a Ghanaian. I am not a Zambian. I am not a Zimbabwean. I do not recognize a Ghana. I do not recognize a Zambia. I recognize Africa. One Africa, one passport, one citizenship, one currency, one military command, one central bank of issue, one communication system, one people, one destiny. That is the Africa that we want. And we are here not to beg for it. We are declaring it as of rights. And it is ours to do so. Nobody has the right to sit in Berlin and declare Africa divided.
So that's it. That's it right there, guys.
I know what. But when I think of preaching, you have to buy. That was nice.
Yeah. I'm not a Ghanaian. I'm not a Nigerian. I'm not Zambian. I'm not Zimbabwean. I'm an African. No one's going to tell me that we're supposed to have borders who sit in Berlin and divided Africa, and it's my right. I'm not to ask nobody. It's my right to get rid of these borders. And he's right. That's the youth waking up. This fake ass narrative, the Europeans, these lies, these white people sit in Africa to keep African people impoverished.
Mm.
Your unity is your strength.
If the African government, if the African governments recognized this, we would not be seeing Africa struggling the way it is.
No, they were the puppets were put there. Those puppets were put there. The guy made these are just more puppets. Those puppets were set up when they lost these skirmishes with Africans trying to get their independence. The white man didn't have the numbers to really be on the ground and keep Africans, so they put their puppets in because they knew mentally Africa had not woken up enough to match them, to match their wit. So they would put these fake banking scams in and put their puppets in to keep their power over Africa. But Africa's slowly breaking, wiggling out of that shit. All these puppets are going to be murdered, Maria. They're going to be shot in the head. They're the puppets coming to an end. If you see in Kenya, see, Africa being one people because you are. Genetically, you're one people. Forget about your dumbass tribe. Genetically, you're the same as the guys in Nigeria. And maybe it's Zambia, the same people. You migrated to all parts of Africa. There were no borders. So you have a collective African consciousness that you share with all other African people globally. Since the African is starting to wake up, this one scares the European. That's what all the I'm talking on social media. You can't stop this. This is collective consciousness happening. But the Africans gonna take back Africa. It's the power of the world. Maria, let me send this one for you to play. Play this one too, real quick. Let me send you this one. This is it right here. Yeah, let me send this one to you, right? Let me send this one to you to play. Play that one right there I sent you, Maria. The white guy telling the truth. That guy, like I've always told you, he knows that Africa is the most important continent on the planet. Why? Because it's the wealthiest. Africans are never poor till you lost power of Africa. And he's telling you the truth about South Africa. He's talking about, yeah, they can come back in and manipulate those elections. That's what they did. You think the white people won power in South Africa? Hell no. Those elections were manipulated. Like all elections in Africa. Democracy's a scam. So this is the powers that be saying, we're trying to take it back. We're trying to take back Kenya, take back Uganda. We're going to take these African countries back before these kids wake up. They see the writing on the wall. You didn't have nobody talking like that video you just showed 20, 30 years ago. African didn't know who the fuck he even was yet.
Sabotage. But I don't only mean by...
and that's it.
So look, South Africa, as I warned about several weeks ago, before the election, it has been now undermined by means of what can only be called a soft coup, an electoral sabotage. But I don't only mean by means of rigged elections, but by comprehensive subversion, manipulation, and infiltration of their domestic political landscape by the United States. The so-called Democratic Alliance, the DA, which has been supported by outsiders, by the West, by the National Endowment for Democracy, and so on, by Western private sector power, collaborating with private sector power in South Africa, has now been able to move its way into a ruling coalition. Zionist. They represent the colonizer class. and colonizer interests. I think that what happened in South Africa is tremendously important and tremendously dangerous for the entire BRICS project, because it reveals the very clear intent, in my opinion, of the owners and controllers of global financialized capital to revive and to restore colonial control by any and every means available to them, and to subvert the economic sovereignty and political independence of the global South, if they can. Like I said, if they can find ways to do it, that's what they'll do. There's a new Cold War happening. It's a Cold War that's happening right now. And I think that we're seeing espionage and covert operations and political intrigues, the likes of which we haven't seen since the 1950s, 1960s. At this point, I don't feel confident, to be honest, about any so-called democratic elections in any countries in the global South, except that they will be tampered with.
Exactly.
And in fact, not only in the global South, in places like Eastern Europe, in the Balkans, and so forth. Same thing. South America, obviously, this is also happening. This is especially going to be the case in any country that operates according to a parliamentary system, because they're very easy to manipulate and tamper with. I think that BRICS should draft a uniform policy that requires all member states, or at least encourages all member states, to ban the National Endowment for Democracy from funding any political party or any NGO in their countries. And you can add to that USAID as well, USAID. But I don't think it's wise or safe for any BRICS nation to allow domestic organizations or domestic political parties to be funded by the United States in any way whatsoever. They're only going to be used to manufacture opposition or to manipulate real existing opposition towards their own ends against the interests of that country. So that needs to be stopped, in my opinion. There are moves and counter-moves going on non-stop. The situation is fluid. While there's no doubt in my mind that the global South will rise, it's not at all clear who is going to be in control of the global South when all is said and done. Global South will rise, but who's going to be managing that, we don't know yet. The economy is shifting, there's no question. But those who have been controlling the global economy up until now want to maintain their control during and after the transition takes place, during and after the pivot. How that's all going to turn out is up in the air right now. And it's being determined, that outcome is being determined by decisions that are being made now. The most dangerous situation is in Africa, because of course Africa is absolutely the most important continent on the planet.
Exactly. It is the most important continent to the planet, the most important in the world. Whoever controls Africa runs the world. As I've been taught you, been told you, whoever controls Africa owns the world, controls the world, dominates the world, because it's the richest place in the world. Go ahead, guys.
Important, and therefore the next most at-risk region is the Middle East. The Middle East and Africa power the whole global economy. They power everything that makes so-called modern life possible. It's all made possible.
There is no Middle East. There is no Middle East. All that shit is Africa. Oh, there's no fucking Middle East there, man. It's Northeast Africa that you stole from the African. The most important continent is Africa. There ain't no fucking Middle East that made up shit. That's Northeast Africa that you stole from the African. The most important continent, just say it, ain't the Middle East and Africa. It's just Africa. Go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
And if the West was an actually civilized civilization, that would mean
that
peace and stability in the Middle East and in Africa should be of paramount importance. Good relations and harmonious dealings and so on. That would be the priority if they were civilized people. But of course, the West is not civilized. And if you have something that they need, if you have something that they want, especially if you have something that they need, then they do not see you as a friend. They don't see you as a friend that they want to be close to and have good relations with. They see you as an enemy that they want to subjugate.
That's right.
They see the world in a predator-prey paradigm. Kill or be killed mentality. They're the original extremists.
Thank you, white man, for telling the truth. They're savages. You're fucking with savages. The African better wake up and understand you're dealing with a savage. When you're praying to your fake Jesus, you're fucking with a savage. That's it, so you can take it down. That's it. You're fucking with a not washing his ass savage.
Wow.
That's why I gotta put you guys back on TikTok.
That's
Like
the
the white Arab man telling the truth. You're fucking with satisfaction. They see you as prey when you're weak. Give you all these fake ass religions and shit. They see you as a moron, as prey. You're gonna steal you were savage for coming to steal what you got while we giving you a fake cracker to worship. It is Jesus, yes, I know, because the Bible told me so. Hey, moron, while you singing your goofy Jesus song, they're stealing your shit.
Where did you learn that song from?
But I had to go to church when I was a kid, Maria. Like all black people, I had to be indoctrinated with that shit too. I had to go to Sunday school and church and learn that shit too, Maria. Jesus loved me, this I know, because the Bible told me so. This is some bullshit the cracker taught me, and I have to get rid of it. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loved me because the cracker told me so. See, singing that song, I would get invited to Seto's mother's house. Come on in, baby. Jesus does love you. And as soon as I sat down to eat her crickets and said, nah, that Jesus some bullshit, she told me right out the house, get your ass out of here.
Yeah. Africans don't really know the powers we hold.
The reason is we don't have the true history, our true history. We don't have our true history. That's why it is very rare to find the Africans, even those within Africa, like to come out and fight and talk the truth about our identity, about what we are, what we will earn, and what we hold here.
It is, by the way, do you know that there are some other African countries who don't know that other African countries exist?
Korea.
They think it is, yeah, they think it is all about them, and the governments even don't take it to the duty to let other people know. Because first of all, you at times you don't blame others. Because first of all, someone will say, we know Uganda because of course, Idi Amin. They don't know the goodness that is in Uganda. They can only get to know Uganda because of that bad history that they wrote about it. Someone will say, we know about Congo because of so and so. And just like someone will say, we know better with the Nigerians because they are scammers. Someone will say, I got to learn about South Africans because of the phobia.
Nigerians are not scammers.
So they are not.
The Indians scam 10 times more than Nigerians. Maria.
Yeah, true.
Go ahead.
This is we get to understand other countries because of the negative part. We don't know the greatness other countries have, and we don't wonder about these countries because everyone would wish to see a beautiful place. Everyone would wish to visit a beautiful place. Everyone's dream is to travel outside Africa because there is
That's
a
true.
way, say, America has put itself out there, and in we know a lot of the stories are actually fake, but it has put itself out there that everyone says, if I wish I would reach that place. They have portrayed themselves in a very clean and comforting way.
Of course, it's called propaganda.
When they decide to talk about human rights, you would think it is the only continent where you can find peace. Yet it is not even peaceful.
Nope.
But now when you try to check how Africa is being portrayed, it is very disgusting.
Of
If someone
course.
starts to describe about Uganda, you wouldn't wish to come to Uganda.
Of
If
course.
the media
Not,
starts to
not
describe
as
about
Uganda. Uganda, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Angola, all of them.
yeah,
Only one they put it in a good light would be South Africa because white people are there. That is the only one.
yeah. And you're going to learn that the way it is projected out there, then you wouldn't want to reach those areas. And the only thing that you are going to look at probably and say, wow, it's going to be something to do a lot with the sex. If it is not sex, they don't put, yeah. Because if they are trying to describe a woman, you are either going to see a naked woman, you are either going to see a woman on the beach. I wonder how many even African women go to beaches. It is not even half to the population. I wonder even how many African women walk naked. It is even not quarter of the population. But that means they always attract things that are not, and this is why you have got a lot of people, the moment they come here, the moment a foreigner comes, he thinks they are supposed to approach you and you're supposed to accept.
Exactly.
We have seen a lot of young girls being killed because they are rejecting people. Because you come in Africa as a sex predator, you come in Africa because this is what you go and get free sex from Africans. Let's go and have free sex with those beautiful
Yes.
women.
Yeah, because they think the Africans idolize. They think African women idolize everything that's non-black, Maria. They believe African women idolize these ugly crackers, these ugly white Arabs, these ugly Asians. They believe that. They believe the Africans idolize. They believe that
Uh,
the African woman idolize these other people.
I know a story of a white man, I think he was from German, who killed an African woman because she rejected him. Now, this is the thing. You come from your country, you think each African woman you wish for, you have to get.
Exactly.
All right. But was she rejected? So this and this guy started, following this
Going crazy.
lady. He
He,
killed
he
her.
starts stock. He starts stalking her. Yeah, it's crazy.
How can you reject me, you a mere African woman? Who says I don't have?
Exactly, Maria. That's the mindset they've been given. It's so psychopathic because they've been told their own self that you're better than African people. This African woman should want you just because you're white. You be ugly, white, and fucked up, but you're supposed to want him, Maria, because he's white and you're a no good, dirty nigga.
We've seen real stories of a lot of old white women. They come purposely here not to rest their mind, just to have sex with the
With
African
the
young
boys.
people.
I come
And
in.
some
Yeah,
say,
that's the that,
going to
that's
sex,
that's not
this is
that's not just that's not just in Africa. That's what all you find. It's really big also, Maria, on your island of Jamaica. Put us up, Seto. Say white women. Oh, say older white women go to Jamaica for sex tourism.
Jamaica for sex
Oh,
tourism.
oh, older white women go to Jamaica for sex tourism. This is what Maria's talking about. They go to get that African penis even in Jamaica. I'm in Jamaica. Want some African young penis.
Tracy muno wakyali mu kiyambako okwoza n'ekyamukola
You went to a sexy resort.
teekawaleeko images.
These images. Holiday with the wife in Jamaica. The images are so. Oh.
omwana nomusyomozo kigondiyitamu.
The images are extremely young.
Aye, these images, the images, ooh, the images don't look good. How?
Holiday wife in Jamaica.
Hey. Ooh. Nze nkugambye. The jail. The images we are seeing. Oh, shoot. Check out.
What you see? You see it? You see anything?
Let's see something else.
You guys not sharing your screen.
Yeah, the images we are seeing are like more of pornography.
So what Maria's saying is correct. It's all African people wherever you find us at.
Even in Gambia.
Brazil, Uganda, Kenya, same thing.
Sexualism.
That's
exploitation.
With one or more locals, including male sex workers, female sex tourists may seek aspects of the sexual relationship not typically shared.
This is much lower than males. The lower number of male make it difficult to search the phenomenon. So the female workers they experience of Africa, Caribbean, Europe appears to and other stuff, even Kenya.
Haiti, whatever. When you check the images, I'm only seeing pornography. They are bringing pornographic images.
Jamaica, Bahamas, Cuba,
Check out that.
Barbados,
The images cannot be shared.
Wow, is that bad? Is that bad, Maria? Is that bad?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're very bad.
Wow. Everybody's eating popcorn in Jamaica.
They're very bad.
Wow. Wow. It's crazy.
So this is it. We have a lot of good things going on. And I don't know why they always project us. They want to exploit, not only without minerals, but even exploit the sexual part.
Yes.
All that. What is it? Yeah, Africa is all about being exploited and all that kind of bullshit. So it is, this is why I say that a lot of people don't really know what is going on across Africa. A lot of Africans don't really know. The only thing they know about other African countries are the bad things.
Wow.
And I think there is a way Europe, America, Asia, there is a way it displays itself that every African wishes. Because how can you be an African from your country and you decide to go and of course stay in what? You go and stay in Pakistan.
I'm not doing that.
Why should you leave Africa to go to the remote sides of India?
And
Why should you go to Vietnam?
I'm not doing that.
We have people going there.
We
Why
do.
should you go? We have a lot of beautiful places in Cambodia. Why should you go to Cambodia?
Thailand.
Why should you go to Thailand? Why should you go? We have a
Well,
lot of beautiful African places where you
yeah,
can go and you can feel at home. But because this,
exactly, exactly, Maria.
you're gonna tell somebody about Uganda, somebody, I can't believe. The only thing I know about Uganda is definitely Idi Amin, and probably maybe you people are so poor and whatever that comes along. And if
That's
you
true.
ask me another question, I also give you another negativity about another African country. And the only good things you're going to see, like I said, it's either things that are giving you room for sex exploitation, or this is why we have a lot of, like we are talking about the tourists that come for sex in
Yeah.
Africa. Why did you come for sex? Aren't you not getting sex wherever you are coming from? Did you have black people there to have sex with?
But
They
that
have food, they
exactly
have
that's a good
information.
that see what you're saying, Maria, is so true. But they think that the African on the continent is more dumber. They say
No,
you're not as worldly as the African off the continent, and you're they try to say you're more in dire need. You're more in struggle, so you'll just accept anything. That's their mindset.
like that guy who killed that young lady because she rejected him and he could
Hmm.
not take that. How can
Exactly.
an African woman reject me, a Mzungu?
Hmm.
And because
Exactly.
they come with that mentality.
Hmm. It is. Exactly. That's true.
Why? Yet we have a lot of things. We have a lot of good things that are actually going on. We have a lot of good things that are happening in Africa, but we
True.
still want to stick to that because this is what is being shown to the world about us. How will people
True.
respect us? Like I said, each time you want to see, or you're going to look at a beautiful naked African woman, it is even not the biggest population of Africans that walk naked. Hmm?
No.
Then when it comes to the part of African men, then you're going to see the violent part. African men don't know how to handle women. They have
Hmm.
very many women that they cannot even take care of.
They
We
share
do
the
not have
worst.
a population of African men who can take care of their wives and their children.
Yeah, they're gonna share. It's gonna share the worst. It's called propaganda. For sure, the
Yeah.
worst.
But there is a video I saw trending on TikTok recently. A Nigerian comedian was making this weird video. So
Okay.
this and they were cooking.
Hmm.
The woman cooked little food, I think, or noodles or whatever, and brought to serve to the husband. They were white, both a white woman and a white man. And the wife wasn't happy. So it's like the husband had to carry the wife and to make her, I think he took her to the bedroom, I guess, to sexually please her. And when she
Yeah.
came out, she was very happy. She made a very heavy meal. And when it came to the face of an African man, is this man took the wife to the bedroom and the wife came back with the punches all over her face. You know, she had
Wow.
swollen eyes, cheeks
Wow.
everywhere. So it's like everyone and all African women, yeah, that is what we black women go through. Yeah, like seriously? Have they not seen white people being punched?
Hmm.
Have they not seen the violence in white marriages? So
Exactly. It's
this
the
is
worst. It's
and you find everyone, I just want to get married to a white man. They're going to pump you before you
wow.
your head like they are doing with others.
Wow. That's crazy.
So
That's
this is the
crazy.
mentality a lot of people have, really. Hmm?
See, and that's why the German thought he could come down and do what he did, because he knows the mentality, like you said. Wow, that's crazy.
You decide to think the life you watch in the movies is real. It is
Let it
It's,
be on his drama and disorganized and the
written by even somebody else.
And it has even audience that they target to.
And those are the challenges.
There are some movies I've watched, and they are basically actually for Africans. And once these movies, we see a series of these movies, episodes. Now we see certain things, such behaviors started like we start seeing such behaviors.
People started to behave like
yeah,
that.
they behave exactly like the people that we see in those movies.
Nengo ezibambala bazikopa kubayingira.
All behavior, all character gy'olaba mu movie. Ogenda okulaba people start behaving the same way. People start using the same slogans that we watch in the movie. When a movie wejja like you start hear the slogan all over. Even because social media became prominent in the sea, you know that wali ebi TikTok bichi kira waberango Facebook. Kitegeera. Kino njagala kugira.
So I think a lot. This is the problem that we have. The fantasy. I don't know.
British.
We fantasize of things that are really not real. I don't know. A lot of African women, by the way, think that white people don't get angry. All right.
And stupidly enough, they think that these white people, they're going to care for their families. But together.
I think that the Roman system.
That's what comes into the minds of these people, that they such people.
Because for me, at times I keep asking myself, like, no wasting obudde bwonna ng'opijja omuzungu okutunda butunzi sipamu, because it is like a we have seen, and this is real. Omufaanyizo mumaze emyaka 7-12 n'ovaayo nga tokyalina maanyi galabirira mwana. And when you are ate bwe bafuna gwabalabirira omwana, change diapers, do what? Apparently you raise that child in Gabu.
Look at this guy on either
General Zamba.
Okitegeera omukazi alina kugenda ajja wano naye n'addayo musaale ngo yamuzaalamu abalongo
tagenda bafuna.
Okitegeera amubeera kuli bw'ati si mukulu si mukadde naye tewali kyagenda mufuna. Nothing is going to get on
this. And this is the problem. A lot of people have that fetish. I don't know what it is about people and how a lot of Africans think towards others. I don't know. I've not had that desire. Sorry. I've not had that.
That guy got married long time. We are going to see, but I've never seen.
Wasting your time.
He's like, for him, he thought that he's going to agenda kuyimirira kw'ono omukazi kufuna stand, of which he did not, of which he even tried okuyimba ebweru naye nga olina bifuloopi.
Tasakukkiriza nti successful. Omuganda wa Kamiliyoni tumulaba yamala kukyaba omukazi oyo. So you can't.
Yatambulanga naye ng'abeera naye buli kaseera.
Now those are the challenges.
By the time that guy went outside, he was prominent here. By the time General yavira mu Uganda, twali tukyamwetaaga. Okimanyi, the music industry really needed that guy by the time he went. Or UK or US, I don't know. No certain of the country. But by the time singa kati bibantu kati ababi nnyo. Do you know that okulaba gravity saawe gravity yayitawo lwako omusajja oyo yagenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, muzungu.
Katale yali anabbi. Mutamanyi. Yena yagejerera amatama talina health.
Nze ndabaako zaate.
Agatamu ge yalina.
Amatama takyagalina. We were watching a recent video on TikTok. In fact, waliwo na wayinza kuorganizinga wano Kivulu. Omuntu n'agenda ogendeyo olabe ki. Does he have new music? Amwina. Look, apart from Maddox, who made Kalerat leaders of good music, akyatachinga abantu alina music omupya.
Maddox naye music we yonna talina mupya.
Singa singa music ye yali talina foundation.
No, singa teyalina message. Ngabwali. When his music wasn't nice as it is, Munobude he would be among abafa. Kuba Maddox era nokola ekivulu yeetagirako abantu. Talina nyingi.
Kitegeera Abafrigo bamusazaamu. Okutegeka Afrizo olina okuwa Afrigo. Nako mumanya mu 2022. Afrigo had a guy nga kyali wanengamira. Nengamira.
You are the one who said we shouldn't talk.
What?
Subanga yagutogera Uganda. Ate kati gwaluddako.
Oliddamu.
Ogera.
Nawe yambulidde.
Mbako.
Yes.